before I bring us into that focused or mindful time through a video, I wonder if anyone would like to share sort of how they've been making space to provide that time to be available for them to attend. I know, of course, at the early sessions, COVID was still, we were still in a certain stage in COVID, and we didn't have a lot of options for leaving our home and whatnot. But even then, even within our own homes, and when we're practicing stay-at-home orders, there's lots of other things we could be doing. So how have you sort of made time and set aside the time for you to, come into this space and be part of the eCamping session? Would anybody like to share about that?
I know a lot of people have said they haven't got time to do it. Well, like I said once before, I don't think anybody is busier than I am, but my work day goes from like 8 in the morning till 11 at night, all the time. And I refuse to watch TV and that kind of stuff. So I just say, well, I do all the things I have to do around the eCamping time slots. So if I have letters to write or some reconciliations or checks to write or whatever, I do it up till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So I get my work done just the same. I'm kind of thankful at the moment that I don't have to prepare sermons, because that takes a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time doing that. But anyway, I do the things that I have to do around eCamping right now.
So kind of adjusting your schedule.
Yeah.
Prioritizing.
Yeah.
So you've made eCamping a priority, have you, Claire?
Yes, primarily, yeah.
Wonderful.
And I am really sorry that a lot of people weren't able to, or not wanting to hook into it, because there's a lot of valuable stuff they could have learned. And I need to talk to you, Troy, about how to copy some of that onto my computer so that we can use some of the stuff at church once we get going again.
Sure. Be happy to, Claire. Just email me or phone me.
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm going to be on vacation for the first 2 weeks of September, so don't do it then.
Okay.
Susan.
Well, I know some people are just not comfortable with Zoom, and I've set up church services through Zoom, and very small amount of people have attended. They just aren't comfortable with this. I don't know if their age, they're just not comfortable. I know that. And because I send out the joys and concerns each week, I know what some people also are having happen in their lives. There's health issues with family. And I know people just can't. And I know other people work during the day, so they can't either. Their schedules aren't that flexible. And I'm hoping people can go in the evenings and watch the recorded ones. That's what I'm hoping, because I agree, Claire, they've been phenomenal. I enjoy being able to interact, and so for me, that's much better than just watching a recorded one. And again, because I'm retired and I do have a lot of time and I don't have a large bubble of people, so I also make this a priority.
Nice, thank you.
And I think that the recordings are great. They're superb. And I was very thankful that Susan had suggested about the European colloquy, because I got to see David Bolton, or David, what's his first name? Andrew, thank you. Andrew Bolton, that presentation. And that was, Oh, that was fabulous. I've been sharing that with non-members, members, like that. That was absolutely fabulous. And I love to learn. And so when there are classes available, I'm going to be there if there's something that I really want to learn. And I also believe in just being there. So some of the things, there might have been a topic that I was kind of, oh, I don't know, but you know, I'm just going to be there. And then I find out that I love it. I love it. So that's worked for me.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you if I've joined a session, whether it's eCamping or something else, that maybe I'm not, quite, maybe it's not something that interests me or I'm very passionate about, but something just draws me to be in community with those folks. And then, there's that part of that presence, but then invariably there seems to be something that informs my perspective out of that, that kind of I go, oh, wow, I learned something new. There's a takeaway for me. And that I would not know, or I would not have that piece of knowledge or perspective if I didn't listen in. So I guess that's where this idea of, what do they call it? You can attend a course without paying, auditing. You can audit a course, which is just kind of sitting in without having to do the work, because there's going to be takeaways nonetheless. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, Al. All right, then, that was a little fun. I will draw your attention back to, I'm going to play a video now, share a video with you. It's a spoken word video, about 3 minutes long, called Time. He starts off by talking about the gratitude he has for time. So as you're listening to his words and what he is saying, I'd invite you to think about which words or phrases, kind of like a audio divina, listening to what resonates with you, what stands out, or how you connect with what he's sharing. So here we go.
I am learning to be grateful for each moment. But I am well aware that this today will very quickly join the history class full of yesterdays. So friends, before it does, allow me to share something with you. Time. It can fly and promises to heal all of our wounds. We try to make it, save it, kill it, and there is never enough of it. Time is what stops everything from happening all at once. Making sense of past through to present into future, it's later and it's sooner. Time is what measures the duration of pain and of joy and of everything in between. It's awful, but it's lovely, it's gracious, and then it's mean. Time is like the wind. It lifts the light to float with it, while leaving the heavy to curse the rushing breeze. And I'm even convinced that time stops when you really have to sneeze. Time. It seems to rule all aspects of our lives and has been the endless fascination for every creed and nation throughout all of time. It seems to vary from place to place, but personally I have yet to face a space where it does not intermingle and interlace itself into everything. And the mysterious thing is that time is completely personal, but then entirely public. Each second ascribed solely to you. But that self-same moment is for the rest of us too. So it doesn't matter who you are or what you pursue. Time does not discriminate, so do not misconstrue. We all face life at 60 minutes an hour. And then time seems to pester only man, because bird and bee seem so free from the tick-tock time bomb mentality that plagues you and me. You see, a hummingbird can flap its wings 90 times in a single second. Those wings are spun of silver, emerald, and gold, and these tiny little creatures are hearts to behold with angelic features and colors so bright they propel imagination to a new delight. And there is magic in the way that they flit through the sky. They appear, then they vanish in the blink of an eye. But if you think that's impressive, friend, then consider the fly. Because those buzzing buggers beat their wings more than 1,000 times a second. Now, I'm no fan of a fly, but none can deny that that is pretty impressive. But then it also makes sense. Because the average mayfly has a lifespan of little more than 30 minutes. And if I were ever limited to such extent, I could only ever be content by cramming every minute with 60 seconds well spent. And so that begs the question, how are you spending your time? Allow me to suggest that you stop. Stop waiting for some dream day when you'll get your fresh start. Let loose the wild things you keep locked up in your heart, and stop hoping to make it if you do nothing about trying, because we're all headed towards death. So what are you doing about dying? Stop talking about killing time while time quietly kills you. Talk is cheap, and every second is as precious as life itself. And so, my friends, thank you for spending a little bit of your life on me.
I don't know about others, but I really found that powerful, and it's sometimes difficult, but also awakening. And I'll begin the sharing, give you a chance to put your thoughts together, and saying that, you know, the way he ends the video there reminds me of times when I remember always try to thank people for the gift of their time when they are facilitating, when they are presenting, when they are you know, being guest ministry, when they are visiting with you, whatever the case may be, or listening. It's the time that they are taking. I try to be grateful by thanking them for the gift of that time, because it's, I feel the time is the great equalizer. It's the one thing that we all have the exact same amount of, no matter how affluent or poor we are, where we live. It's a great equalizer in that sense. What about others? How do they connect with that video? How did, what are some of the reflections that came up for you? What thoughts emerged for you? What phrases or words did resonate with you?
I actually had something physical happen at one point in the film. And it was when he was describing the colors of the hummingbird, and he went like this. And I actually took a breath when he did it. And I went, huh, I don't know what that was all about, but I did. Yeah.
You took time to breathe.
I wrote down a few words that really caught my attention. And that was time is a healing process. It's personal. And it is no discrimination. It measures our lifespan. And every second is precious.
Yeah, good notes. Did you want to say, did you want to expand on any of those?
No, I was just going to say I had one written down. It's measuring the length of pain. We don't really think of that. No, I thought that presentation was excellent, and it brought in most aspects of our everyday life, and most of which we take for granted and never ever think twice about it. And when I said first the word discrimination, no, did I say discrimination or procrastination? And I think the old saying that procrastination is a thief of time, and it sure is. And yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Claire.
He also said about making sense of things. And again, I couldn't help but think they kept showing his feet, and he had his bare feet on, and then he had his shoes or slippers, whatever, that were in the center. And at the end, he ran away without them. And that affects me.
Yeah, a lot to think about there as to why he walked away barefoot, left his shoes behind, and could read into that if we wanted to. Welcome, Pearl. We just watched a short little video, a spoken word video about the nature of time and the essence of time, and we're just sharing our reflections on that spoken word poetry. So you might feel a little out of the loop in what we're sharing at the moment. Susan, go ahead.
I was thinking that my granddaughter, who's going into grade 9 this fall, was over a couple of days ago, and we were talking about time and how appreciative I am that they come over and we physical distance. And my daughter said, you know, when she's back in school, her bubble is now larger, and we might not be able to do this. And I said, well, I'll wear a mask. Like, it's important that we spend time together. So we have been talking about time with family. And a good friend of mine, her brother just died last week, and my granddaughter's great-grandmother just passed away. So we were that, you know, part of that was all going through my mind when I was watching the fellow speak. And during this pandemic, I mean, that was very timely, because some of us have more time now, and I can't believe the 2 months have just gone by in the flash of an eye, really. But in thinking back, I'm trying to focus and keep journaling, because we've had this wonderful gift of time these past couple of months, I think, and little anxiety for the next couple of weeks coming up, but yeah, I liked, and I think I got his name written down because I kept thinking I got to show my daughter this video.
If you plug the phrase time spoken word into YouTube, he'll be one of the first ones. That's how I found it.
I was thinking about that form of communication that, I don't know how long the video was, maybe 2 minutes or something like that, but it's a tremendous way to express something in a short period of time that's meaningful, and the poetic nature of it just kind of adds that extra touch of flair in listening. And I found it just really connected. And I actually had my granddaughter on a FaceTime call just before it came in, and we've just been doing the exercise with the balls or whatever. And you know, so I'm thinking as I'm talking to her about time and how you use your time. And so anyways, I'm calling her back after this, but I I wanted to be able to listen to this, but not, you know, dismiss her in any way. But I find myself thinking about time a lot now, and I think it's kind of a demographic aging thing lately, and how I find myself in the four walls of my office so much. I saw a next door neighbor yesterday, and she was patting our dog, and you know, I was asking her about how often she's been up. She said, I've been up for most of the summer. And I have been sequestered pretty much, you know, most of the time in my office, and I haven't been sitting out much, you know, on my dock or anything like that. And so, you know, there's the measurement of time in terms of usage and quality. And I've loved what I have been working on this summer, but, you know, there's parts of my life as well that have been absent in, you know, kind of the prioritization of what you work on. So anyways, I didn't mean to say so much, but time is certainly something that measures in many qualitative, quantitative, you know, prioritization, all of those factors of your life.
Everyone is welcome to say as much as they'd like. We are not limited by time here. But what a great reminder of that phrase that many of us have probably heard, I don't have the time. When the reality truly is, we do have the time. It's what we do with it, how we arrange it, how we organize it, how we prioritize it. So I try to shy away from that phrase if I remember to now, but not saying I don't have the time, but I will make the time for that, or, you know, something along those lines, instead of flat out refusing, I just don't have the time for that. But thanks for the reminder. Pearl, do you have anything to share on, you know, I know you didn't see the video, but on your reflections of the nature of time, or how time fits into the big picture of our lives and society and culture?
No, I'm at the latter stage. I'm going downhill on the journey, and it's whatever the good Lord wants me to do or want. That doesn't bother me. Time, I've got all the time to do what I want because it's just me and whatever I choose to do.
What a wonderful attitude and a way to look at it. And that's a great segue, Pearl. Thank you. And I think Carrie set it up as well for the next short little video. And it's called Jelly Beans. And maybe you might have seen it before, but it's always wonderful to watch again. You've seen it before, Susan?
I have, but I just also wanted to mention one of my relationships, I kept trying for reconciliation and spent a lot of time. And I finally realized it's no longer in my ballpark. It's not in my court. You know, I've said, if you want to reconnect, I'm here, I'll listen. But I got fatigued trying to be able to spend time with this person. So I think we also have to be cognizant that there are times that we're spinning our wheels and it's maybe not well spent time. At least that's been my experience. And we have to sometimes make sure we're not overextended, because we can be so busy that you know, we have to be, I think we have to be very careful with our time also, because it is precious and we have to be able to spend it wisely.
Well, another great segue into that video. So, and you'll see hopefully in the video how what Susan just said is echoed in the video. So here we go with that video.
Just to add to that, before you go ahead, the scripture that talks about there's a time to live, a time to die, a time to plant, etc. That's a wonderful scripture that just goes along with what we've been talking about. And there is a time when we've got to say no.
Yeah, it sure does. In the spoken word video, one of the things that I noted and wrote down was how he said, one of the ways to spend your time is to stop. I thought that was interesting. Just kind of as you're alluding to, Susan, there's some times where we have to stop with the time that we're spending on something so that we can focus on something else. A friend of mine used to always say no so that you can say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as he said, I love this, the speed of time. We all travel through time at 60 minutes per hour. I thought that was pretty fun way to put that. 60 minutes per hour. Makes it sound fast, doesn't it? All right, here we go with the jelly beans video, and I'll invite your reflections on it afterwards.
These are roughly 28,835 jelly beans. I counted out 500 of them and used those to weigh the rest. In this pile, there's one jelly bean for each day that the average American will live. You might have more beans in your life, or maybe less, but on average, this is the time we have. Here's a single bean. It's your very first day. A special day, but kind of a rough day on everyone involved. Add 364 more and you have the first year of your life. Now, for a sense of scale, here are your first 15 years, 5,475 days, which brings us to the threshold of adulthood, and at that moment, this is the time that we have left. And this is, on average, what we will do with all that time. We will be asleep for a total of 8,477 days. If we're lucky, some of that time we'll be sleeping next to someone we love. We will be in the process of eating, drinking, or preparing food for 1,635 days. We'll be at work, hopefully doing something satisfying, for the equivalent of 3,202 of those days. 1,099 days will be spent commuting or traveling from one place to another, maybe a little bit more if you live in LA. On average, we will watch television in one form or another for a total of 2,676 days. Household activities, like chores and tending to our pets and shopping, will take another 1,576 days, and we will care for the needs and well-being of others, our friends and family, for 564 days. We'll spend 671 days bathing, grooming, and doing all other bathroom-related activities, and another 720 days will go to community activities, like religious and civic duties, charities, and taking classes. After we remove all those beans, this is what remains. This is the time that we have left. Time for laughing, swimming, making art, going on hikes, text messages, reading, checking Facebook, playing softball, maybe even teaching yourself how to play the guitar. So what are you going to do with this time? How much of it do you think you've already used up? If you only had half of it, what would you do differently? What about half of that? How much time have you already spent worrying instead of doing something that you love? What if you just had one more day? What are you going to do today?
Okay.
I was wishing that one that was left was a black jelly bean. I really don't like the yellow.
It can be any color you want. You can do your own experiment, and if you buy that many jelly beans, I'm sure Mel will visit. So, what do you do with your jelly beans? What will you do? I know the first time I saw this, the next day, I was at a senior high camp, and the next day, we would start the day by saying, so what are you going to do with today's jelly bean? Any thoughts on that video and how it sort of portrayed the amount of time that is, Susan?
I'm sorry, my husband was just here. I was
Oh,
waving hi.
looked like you were waving to talk. I find it interesting how, for me, myself personally, how things are divided up. And once you take away the Alfredo has a saying that he uses a lot. It's get busy living. Once life is out of the way, get busy living. And that small portion that's left over after all the stuff that we do as part of everyday life doesn't really leave us much for living beyond the duties that life calls us to. So how do you navigate that part of your life? How do you use up those jelly beans? What do you plan maybe to do with those jelly beans in the future? Kind of seeing the limited amount of them. Claire.
One of the things I have often said and did myself was the idea of investing in my own future. And so therefore, I studied, I took courses, I experienced things, all of which helped me to become who I am. And people always thought I had rocks in my head because I was always taking courses and working at night. And I ended up with 5 degrees, which I took all by myself by night school. And people just shake their head. But every step that I took was an advantage in the long term. So it's not that the courses and all that was the most important, but I took the time to do what I thought needed to be done for the benefit of my family and the church and all those other things. So to invest some time in ourselves and the goals that we have set for ourselves, I think are important.
I just read something on that, Claire, and it talked about the first step of kind of deciding what you're going to do is to kind of have a sketch of where you want to be at the end of the road, and then committing, and that's what I'm hearing you say, committing that you're going to do whatever it takes to get there. And the third part is measurement, some metrics to say, do you know what? I've gotten closer. I can see that because of whatever it is. And I think that's really powerful. And everything, I see your whole life and my whole life as everything in it is important. Everything. So, I used to teach, and I didn't think about this so much, but everything that I did, every child that I talked to, every piece of my work was important to who I am. There wasn't any wasted anything. I didn't have to work around anything to get living. Everything was living and everything was important. And now the same thing holds. I'm in another stage now. Everything that I do is important. Whether when I exercise, that's important. That's a dedication to something. I'm going to get to where I want to go, just like you're talking, Claire. It's powerful.
Well, Kathy, your jelly beans sound like they taste much sweeter than mine. Susan.
I know when I worked, I'm retired now, but when I worked, it was always waiting for the weekend. And after I retired, it became very clear to me, oh my goodness, why wasn't I looking forward to those other 5 days? I mean, I had a job I really didn't like, and I was just living for 2 days. And fortunately now that's changed. But also, I think when I have had, I'll speak for myself, sorry, when I've had cancer, other health issues, that sort of focuses your, for me, I've paid more attention to my life when I've had the possibility that, yeah, I've got that one jelly bean left. or I've got some jelly beans that they're going to be all cracked and they're not, it's the quality of life might not be there. So I think past experiences for me has helped me appreciate time.
They don't talk about sharing jelly beans, right? I mean, we could share jelly beans, and maybe if we put them all together, that could be really exciting.
Can I tell you a funny story? When we were kids, we didn't have a lot of money on the farm, and every once in a while my mother would bring home a bag of jelly beans. And one time she gave me 5 jelly beans for me and 5 for my brother. And he was away off somewhere, and I was going to go and take them to them. So as I was going, I ate my 5. And when I got to him, I had eaten half of his 5. And I said to him, Mother said to give you half the jelly beans. So we keep laughing about that.
This morning, I spent about, I don't know, over an hour and a half weeding in gardens. And I remember thinking about, you know, how much time it was going to take. And so I needed to kind of make those moments count. And so, you know, I was for a while reflecting on the waves, because we're on Georgian Bay, the waves as they came in, and the different patterns as different boats went by, and the sounds that were, you know, different for each kind of boat because of the size of the waves and the sequence in which they came in. And then, you know, looking at the ground, at the different insects that were there. There were some caterpillars, and there was ants, and there was worms, and you know, just looking at them, and you know, looking at the leaves of the, so you know, just the intent of observing and being present with the nature around me while I was doing this. And it definitely filled the time, but it also made me more sensitive to creation about me in that, you know, time. Because I don't like weeding.
It's interesting. Go ahead, Kathy.
Years ago, at the beginning of my career, our school was very, very tiny. And I was teaching a grade 5-6 class with another gentleman. We actually shared. And we had a fundraiser, and it was the kids made cakes. The beautiful, they came up with all sorts of designs, and then we auctioned them off. So we had the whole school down, and it was really small, but we had everybody down, and these cakes went up for auction, and some of the kids, you know, would go for a cake and say, you know, I don't know, $1 or whatever it is, and then they would run out of money, and then you would see them going to the next kid, going, "Have you got money? Could we put money together?" And they would start to group up so that they could get the money to buy that. And that has stayed with me. That has stayed with me all these years. That's more than 30 years ago that this happened. And I thought how wonderful it is when somebody groups together their jelly beans, gets their jelly beans together and really decides that they're going to share.
I'll just reflect upon what Kathy said, and then I'll pass it over to you, Susan. I wonder, Kathy, if that is inherently true, that, you know, maybe, you know, physically we don't get another jelly bean and somebody loses a jelly bean, but when we share our life with someone else, it extends the life of somebody that we're with, just by that presence. That, yeah, so I don't know, maybe our jelly beans grow. I don't know.
Right now, during this pandemic, if you have contacted somebody who's on their own or whatever, you've given some strength, you've given your jelly bean. That's really important.
Yeah, but I mean, perhaps you've actually, duplicated it, and then nobody has lost anything. Yeah, I think that's wonderful that we're able to do that with that gift of time. Susan.
I was thinking about particularly maybe family members, my family members that are still working, that are very stressed, and time seems to be elusive for them, and not enough time in the day. And I'm thinking, well, how would I really like to be able to help. And I think what we're doing today is sharing stories. I guess maybe that's going to be helpful, because I'm like thinking, there's so many people anxious right now, and it is an anxious time. I understand that, and people are very busy. And how would I help my family members, my extended family? How are they going to understand some of this? And I guess it's maybe just sitting around sharing stories. That's maybe one of the ways.
Gosh, you guys are so great at kind of preparing a segue and a lead-in into the next segment that I have planned. So there's another video that we'll close out our time together with, and it answers kind of this question about measuring time, in a way that's different than keeping time. How do you measure, I guess, the value of your time? And you both have spoken about love, and we're going to listen to a song with lyrics so that you can read the lyrics at the same time you're hearing them. The song's called Seasons of Love. Let me ask this question before we start the video. Does anyone know how many minutes there are in a year?
Wait till I get my
Well,
calculator.
No. If you happen to know it off the top of your head. Well, for those of us who don't, if you've ever seen the movie Rent, they answer that question. Here's our video.
Minutes, 525,000 moments, oh dear. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter, in strife, in 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measuring love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love.
525,600 minutes. 525,000 journeys to plan. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure the life of a woman or a man?
In truths that she learned, or in times that he cried, in bridges he burned, or the way that she died.
Though the story never ends, let's
Celebrate, remember a year in the life of friends. Remember the love.
you got to remember the love. You
So, how many minutes in a year? Was anybody paying attention?
525,600 minutes.
If any of you have seen Mel with shoulder strap kind of dress or shirt, you'll notice she has a tattoo, and under her tattoo is 525,600. Rent is one of her favorite musicals, and it reminds her, she took that tattoo to remind her about how to measure her life. And I love how they answered kind of the things that Susan and Kathy were saying, that to measure our life in love and not in minutes. I think that's a wonderful way to look at it. What did others think about some of the lyrics in that song and what it was kind of alluding to? How do you measure the life of a woman or a man? I know 5 years ago for me, I started measuring those minutes in cups of coffee, like it suggested, cups of conversation and coffee. But there are many ways to measure. So perhaps I'll just leave that. Claire, go ahead.
I was just thinking about, you're talking about love and couples, and I was thinking about my wife in the nursing home now, where time to her is a burden, and she gets to the place where she doesn't care what day it is or what time it is. And so time doesn't mean anything to her. It has become a burden. And so to her, time is entirely different than for some of us who are able and willing and ready and eager to go and do things and go places, etc. So time isn't the same for everyone.
Indeed.
Thank you for sharing that, Claire. The flip side I was going to share, which is the other side, was, and I'd heard it mentioned that if you're doing something and you lose all track of time, that means you're doing something that you're enjoying. So that also is possible. But I'm very sorry, Claire, to hear that for your wife. Very sorry.
Oh, I'm so grateful that, again, you have segued into the next segment so very, very well. And I bring us into the closing of our time together here by upholding these two different kinds of ways of looking at things. Is the time is a measure that is finite, but how we are spending that time, it may seem like an eternity, or it may seem like it goes by in a flash. And so if there's one hope I have for this Reflect and Connect session, is that we take away a deeper sense of the value of the measure of time. And so I'd like us to sort of experience intentionally what time is like as it passes. So if you could begin with a breath, just take a deep breath in and hold it for a moment and release it. Then I invite us all to just remain absolutely quiet and still and reflective for 30 seconds as we kind of mark the passing of time intentionally, starting now. And that is how long 30 seconds is. May you remember that and carry it away with you and hold on to the value of it. And may it help you to measure the life, your life, and the life of others that you engage with and encounter along this human journey that our spirits are a part of. It's been a blessing to be together this afternoon, and thank you for all the sharing that you've offered. And may the rest of your day find blessings in love and in meaning. Thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
Yes, thank you. Blessings, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.